What's up guys, Little J here, and today we are back with another review video, but this one's a little bit different than normal. Today we are going to be comparing and contrasting the Angler Call of the Wild to Ultimate Fishing Simulator 2. They both came out on Steam pretty recently. They're both fishing games, so I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at where each one has an advantage, has a disadvantage, so on and so forth. So let's start off with the Angler Call of the Wild and the graphics of the game. Now the graphics in this game are one of the points that have been, let's say, a hot topic lately. Now, there's no doubting that the land in this game is beautiful. The backgrounds, the surroundings, so on and so forth. It is indeed a beautiful game, much like The Hunter Call of the Wild by the same company. Now, onto the water graphics. The water graphics have been the main thing of debate. People have been saying that it's not really very good water graphics. But there has been a minor update on that to update it, and I must say now they look pretty good. They're by no means perfect, there's still work to be done. But graphically wise on the water itself, I have to say it is quite nice now. It used to not be. But the way the reflections hit the water, the rippling of the water, the waves, the murkiness of the water, how you can just see into it but not all the way, it's pretty good. I like it quite a bit right now. Alright, so here we are in Ultimate Fishing Simulator 2. Now let's start off by talking about the graphics of the game. Now the water graphics are indeed very good. Now as for the surrounding graphics, they're not quite as good, are they? They look a little more 2D, a little more flat, if you will, and not as realistic. Now the underwater graphics in this game are very good indeed. As you can see right here, underwater, the way your lure spins, the way the fish are, the rocks and branches underneath the water. The underwater game is very good. They certainly focus much more on underwater than they did on above water, which makes sense for a fishing game. Now back to the Angler. The next thing we're going to be talking about is the gameplay of the game. Now there's two different ways you can cast. The way I have mine set is where you hold the button and it does a meter. You can also do it with the flip of the mouse. The flip of the mouse, to do it you have to cover the mouse pad so much, it's not that nice. That's the reason I do the simple button push. It's pretty nice, and the reeling motions on this are, for lures at least, are decent. Sometimes it's a little hard to get it to do certain motions, but it's by no means bad. It's actually pretty good. And as for the catching of the fish itself, I think we actually have a fish coming in now. That looks like a pretty big bass, so I'll be able to show this off actually. Here we go. There we go, we have him hooked. Now catching the fish itself, in terms of how you can move the rod around to adjust the tension on the line, how the fish is going, pumping the line and adjusting your drag along the way, it's actually fairly nice. For gameplay, it is pretty user-friendly. It's pretty easy to learn. For bigger fish, it's hard to master, but it's fairly easy to learn, and that's what you really want. Something that doesn't take too long to learn, but, you know, that isn't at the same time too easy, which is what this game does pretty nicely. Now, as for the gameplay itself, as you can see, I have here hook to fish. I have my reel speed set to the lowest setting, and on the right-hand side, we have my line, rod, and reel tension marks, as well as I believe that's the tension meter at the right. It's definitely harder to read than the Angler Call of the Wild, that's for sure, and it's not as clear what you need to do. But it's pretty clear that maneuvering your rod around has a bigger effect on the fish itself, much like in real life. Also, when the fish turns towards you or swims towards you, it has a bigger effect as well. One other thing I like about Ultimate Fishing Simulator as opposed to the Angler Call of the Wild is you can see I can actually walk around once I have hooked the fish. So I've hooked him, he was swimming over here toward the bank, and I couldn't get him around that corner, so what I'm doing is I'm walking over to the edge to pick him up. Reel him in over here. Much more realistic. This is what you would do in real life if you hooked a fish and you can't get him in a certain place. Well, you can walk around and get him in elsewhere. Alright guys, so here we have a setup of what my setup is, the rods, reels, so on and so forth. Now, this is where Ultimate Fishing Simulator really comes into its own, is that it is truly one of the best, if not the best, simulation fishing experiences there is. Lots of different types of rods, reels. You can choose between lots of different types of lines. You can have a leader on, which is very interesting. That not many fishing games do that. You have your choice of different types of bait. I'm going to put the classic twist on him. And you can also set up for a hook and lure. For a hook in like earthworm or something along that nature. You can choose what float weight you want, different types of bobbers, so on and so forth. And now the last thing I want to talk about is perhaps the most complicated with both these games. Its ceiling, its potential, how far they can take this game. Now at the moment, neither one is finished. The Angler Call of the Wild is a full release game, but in order to understand it, we have to look at the Hunter Call of the Wild. Now in that game, when it was a full release, it wasn't truly finished yet. They continued to add and have continued to add even up to this day and beyond more content to the game and updates to the game to make it better. Now this game is made, the Angler Call of the Wild is made by Expansive Worlds as well. Now the thing is, Expansive Worlds has not said if they plan on doing with this the same that they do with the Hunter Call of the Wild. It's not fully clear how far they plan to take this game. If they plan to take it the same way they did the Hunter Call of the Wild, it is going to be an absolutely brilliant game in years to come. I have no doubt about that. But it's unclear how far they want to take it. So it's hard to say what the potential ceiling for this is indeed very high, but it's a matter of how far they actually want to take it. I guess that's something we'll just have to wait and see for. Here, what was this? That's a juvenile largemouth bass. Ooh, he's tiny. Now, on to the potential of Ultimate Fishing Simulator 2. Again, like the Angler Call of the Wild, it's not entirely clear how far they intend to take this game. Words are hard. But I can tell you this right now about it. It is still technically in early access. So, they do state that they plan to keep this game in early access for approximately 6 months. Now, we know how game devs are with their time frames. This 6 months could end up being a year pretty easily. You can never really tell with the game. They do have a list out for certain things they want to add to the game. New character models, multiplayer, fly fishing, ice fishing, sonars, and more gameplay adjustments. So if they indeed add that list of things into the game, this will be an excellent game to play. I honestly think they'll add most of that. I think they can do that. I think they want to do that. I think most of that list will indeed be in the final product. And that will complete our review of the two games. The question I know you're left with now is which one should you buy? Well, that really depends on you. The Angler Call of the Wild, as we've discussed, is easier to learn and is perhaps, in a way, more fun for a beginner. But Ultimate Fishing Simulator 2 is a true simulation. It is much more accurate, much more real life if you were. So it's up to you. It depends on what type of game you want. Do you want a fun fishing game or do you want a fun simulation game? They're both different in each ways. It's really actually hard to compare the two because while they both are fishing games, they both claim to be different things. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. I've been Little J. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe. It really does help. But until the next one, guys, I've been Little J, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.